welcome to this presentation. And I want to acknowledge, first and foremost, my good friend, Dr. Saib Nasir Jala, for inviting a couple of like-minded people who are interested in this pathway. As you guys know, in today's session, we will be talking about immigration pathway and most importantly about the new immigration pathway for doctors. I might be going back and forth between two different languages to accommodate the needs of individuals attending. And I want to welcome each and every one of you guys for today's meeting. And if there's any difficulty understanding the language that I speak, or if you want me to pause along the way, or if you have any other need that needs to be accommodated, please do not hesitate. Let me know. I'll be happy to do so. And I want to also acknowledge my wonderful team members that they are part of this group as well. I want to acknowledge our operations director, Annie Kian, for being here and being always supportive. I want to acknowledge our case manager, Azizuddin Sultani, for helping me a lot with not only this wonderful presentation, which you'll be seeing, but so many other great work that he has been doing. He is an amazing human being, and he has been doing extremely well, and I want to thank him for all the work he does. And I want to acknowledge Ms. Prapti as well. Ms. Prapti is a great human being. She has been part of Tarin Immigration Services for the last 2.5 months or so, and we are thrilled to work with her. She's a professional lawyer from India and have been living and planning on continuing the professional journey in law degree in Canada, and I wish Tarin Immigration Journey could help her to be successful in that field. So with that said, in today's presentation, I'll be covering the Canada's new immigration pathway for doctors. And as you guys know, about a few days ago, Government of Canada introduced the new immigration pathway, which helps individual interested to basically pursue the immigration field to becoming a doctor in Canada and become a permanent resident by pursuing their field of interest. So basically, it's a win-win situation for many of you guys that you're interested to pursue this field. And as you guys know, in the past, this wasn't possible. I think Dr. Saib could explain this further. There were a lot of barriers, and I think slowly and gradually, as I see, Canada is moving towards some flexibility and helping those that they're in the field of medical doctor to have ways to integrate and start a good life and journey in Canada for himself or herself. Couple of days ago or weeks now, Canada announced that they would be basically opening up a new specific program under the Express Entry program, as well as part of the provincial nominee program, to allow a couple of doctors to become permanent residents in Canada. Before explaining what this new program is, I would like to tell you guys briefly a brief information about the powers of the government and how the immigration system works in general. Government of Canada divides its power between 3 different levels of government. We have municipal government, we have provincial government, and we have the federal government. Of course, we don't want to focus about municipalities, but with the provincial government, there are a couple of things such as, for example, health, accessing healthcare services, education services, employment, and policing and so forth, that is part of basically provincial government. That's part of the provincial powers. However, the federal government is responsible for many other things that is big on the country and related to the government, related to the powers that is specific to the federal government. For example, banking, finances, foreign ministry, national defense. And when it comes to immigration, Government of Canada did a very smart thing. Government of Canada decided to basically create a concurrent power between the provincial government and the federal government. So basically, two areas of basically 2 areas. One is immigration, the other one is agriculture. In these 2 areas, Government of Canada, as a federal body, and the provincial governments, which are there are 10 of those in Canada, share these two responsibilities. So what it means is that both the federal government would have its own immigration programs, as well as the provincial governments would have its own programs. If you notice, if you go to any provincial websites, provincial government websites, you would find out a specific section related to immigration. They would have their own programs related to how to bring people to their own province. But what happens is, at the end of the day, even if they select their own people, but when it comes to people being admitted into the country, because it's again a matter of somebody being or allowed into Canada, that would relate back to one of the responsibilities of the federal government. Basically, at the end of the day, that would be federal government to decide whether to allow somebody to come into the country or not. So without focusing more into those powers, if you have any question related to that, I'll be happy to explain that. I know it's an area that I'm very much interested in, but I don't want to bore you with those information. I want to focus more so on the presentation. So Government of Canada is starting early 2026. We don't have a date, maybe perhaps January or February. We'll be starting a specific program for doctors as part of the immigration program. We have, the general programs of Government of Canada, the immigration programs in general, would be divided into two main streams. One is refugees, the other one is immigration. And I know most of the time, a lot of Afghans, they come under the refugee program because the refugee programs are a lot easier compared to immigration programs. When I say easier in a sense for Afghans, because many of you guys, you're already out of a country of your origin, you're already registered as a refugee in a second country, and plus you may have a sponsor in these countries. From those senses, because you're fearing, and you left Afghanistan for one specific reason, you're out of the country and you have a specific fear. For all those reasons, it makes sense for an Afghan to apply under the refugee program. But if you have other skills which qualifies you under the immigration program, then why not? These days we have a lot of people from United States that they are, for example, green card holders. They say, I have green card of United States, but these days the life is very difficult for me. How can I come to Canada? My request to those people is, because many of them, they speak very good English, they have very good education, they have very good experience in United States. I say, come through immigration pathways. If you plan to come to Canada and think to apply for refugee, that's not a pathway to pursue. Anybody in Australia and United Kingdom and European countries like Dr. Ardian and so forth, do you have ways to come to Canada, but not through refugee, more so through immigration pathways. So this particular program is an immigration pathway, not a refugee pathway. I want to make this clear to you. So for immigration pathways, what is the difference? Let me tell you briefly what the differences are. For refugee, you have to be outside the country of your origin. You have to fear, persecution, and you have to meet the definition of refugee. You have to be registered as a refugee by UNHCR or one of the local countries that you live in. These are basically particularly the main three criteria of refugee programs or being a refugee. However, for immigration, your skills would be the most important things. What are those? Your level of English, your level of education, your competency, and the experience that you have. And of course, your age will also play a big role. A lot of times the age would put a lot of people in difficult situation in terms of meeting the requirement, but that's what it is. So at the end of the day, these skills each of these skills would have assigned number, and at the end of the day, Canada would look into those and see, what is your score? Whether if you have enough score compared to so many other people that they will be part of this process or not. And if you meet the scoring process and you have enough score, you would be invited. You would be allowed in to come to Canada. Well, not come to Canada, that would be the next step, but you would be allowed in to apply for that specific pathway that you're interested in, if you have enough score. So now, what Government of Canada will do in 2026, they'll be having more doctors to be drawn as well. In the past, they had a specific draw for nursing, and they have a specific draw for French speaking. They had a specific draw for Canadian experience class. They had a specific draw for trades worker. And now they are planning on having a specific draws, maybe 4 times, 3 times, 5 times, depending on how they are planning. They will be having a specific draws for doctor. So what is that? And why is this basically? Canada, as you guys know, Canada is facing a critical physician shortage. These days, the life, for many of us that we live in Canada has been difficult in a sense that the housing market was very high. And the other thing that a lot of times people complained was nobody had a family physician. There was a lot of wait, in a big country that we always bragged about being one of the greatest countries in the world. It was in a way pretty shameful to say that there were a lot of people that didn't have a family doctor. So now Canada is taking the right step to fill those shortages by encouraging and inviting doctors to come into to Canada and basically fill those gaps. So with that, government of Canada decided to basically include this as part of the immigration program, federal immigration programs, as well as the provincial. And government said that I'll fast track your application. I'll expedite your application so that you could become a permanent resident in Canada faster and call Canada your home. What is the eligibility requirement for this specific program? So one of the important things that they're looking for is for somebody that they're internationally trained doctor like yourself, but having at least 12 months of experience in Canada. I know for many of you this could be difficult, but there would be ways for you to meet that requirement as well. So if you have skills, experience, 1 year experience in Canada, that would be fantastic. And which type of doctors are they looking for? General practitioners and family physicians. And of course, a specialist in surgeries as well. And clinical laboratory and medicine. And plus, you have to have enough English skills to satisfy that specific category. So Canada, why this is one of the great programs? Because there's a faster way for you to become permanent residents of Canada. Canada designated certain number of applications specific to this. For example, 5,000 is reserved for permanent residency spot through provincial nominee as well as through the federal government. And in addition to this, so you would have an expedited work permit process as well. So as soon as you basically start this process, you could qualify and get a work permit and be towards the path to basically be in Canada and work or do whatever. So how do you qualify? Of course, either you apply to the provincial bodies, provincial government, or you apply through the federal government. At the end of the day, if you meet the requirement for that specific province or the federal government, then you will be part of the express entry program. The other thing is you need to have all of your documents ready. What are those important documents? If you have work experience, make sure to keep all of your documents related to your work experience. If you have a resume, if you have contracts, if you have references, if you have whatever related to your work, keep those. And if you claim that you're a doctor, make sure to send your documents to be evaluated in Canada ahead of time. And if you have anybody that offers you a job, make sure to keep those documents as well and submit it along with your application. And of course, we talked about the proof of experience. If you have the proof of experience, your resume and your references, your contract letters, your recommendation letter from your employer, those are the important documents. You submit everything to the government, and then of course you receive an invitation to apply for permanent residency, And you also, in the meantime, apply for, basically you qualify to receive your work permit as well at that time. And that's what the system would be. So basically, as soon as you start this journey, of course, the next step would be for you to think about your next step in terms of settlement process in Canada. Make sure to figure out, where to live, how to basically learn about the places where you want to live, and also if you have a job offer, make sure to find, the closest school for your children if you have. So anything related to settlement and get ready, and also learn about the Canadian culture, improve your English further, things of that nature to get ready for the next step. And of course, if you need help with this process, Tarin Immigration Services will be happy and delighted to help you with this journey, and we'll be here to help you. And I know for many of you guys that if you do not have um, Annie, I have a call. Please answer this call through the work office, log into that thing, and make sure to answer that line. Basically, this was one of those people that was supposed to be part of this presentation today. Okay, so with that said, for many other people that you're planning on coming to Canada, and if you think that this is not the pathway for you, keep that in mind that although this is not formal yet, but Government of Canada will continue one of its greatest program that was out there. It was called Economic Mobility Pathways Pilot Program. Dr. Jala and I, we had a specific exclusive interview on this program, and they are planning on reopening that program. It wouldn't be a pilot program this time around. They might be making some changes to it, but nonetheless, it would be a permanent program. Again, with that program, very similar to this one, it has a specific eligibility criteria, one of which is you need to have at least 1 year of experience out of 3 years. You need to have your documents evaluated. You need to have a high level of English. You need to have a language, basically proficiency test result, which would be IELTS General or CELPIP or PTA Core. And also in the meantime, you need to have basically certain amount of money to support yourself financially to establish your life once when you come to Canada. And if your English levels are low, then of course you need to have a job offer along with it to help you to support you with this journey. That was a specific requirement. So if you guys are thinking that this is not a pathway for you, then you can certainly look into the other program that exists, and Tarin Immigration Services in general will be happy to assist you with this journey. We are here to help and guide you throughout this process.